just been catching up and having a chat. And it kind of flows on nicely from the discussion we've had in the last couple of days with Nicola Willis yesterday, thank you to her for appearing, about business. And the Prime Minister's been saying, his mantra's been, the country's open for business. I was never aware it had closed, to be honest. And supposedly all these initiatives that are going to bring millions of dollars of investment money flooding into New Zealand. I have expressed the opinion that this feels a little bit like John Key Groundhog Day. And I think a lot of New Zealanders would be rather be creating our own wealth than perhaps importing other wealth. One of the changes has been a change to visa requirements for overseas investors that does not require them to pass English language requirements. And I asked the minister yesterday how much money that was going to bring in, and she really didn't have an answer. One group that watches carefully government policy around business and investment, and is the largest business representative body in New Zealand, is Business New Zealand. They had their annual Cookie Push cocktail party, which is the big start to the political year after we've got all the hoi polloi around Waitangi Day and Ratana out the way. That was at the National Library last night, where the great and the good gathered. Had a few canapes and nibbles and got the year underway. I couldn't make it. I was just too busy yesterday. But the person who threw the party, the host, Katherine Rich, head of Business New Zealand, joins us in the studio now. Lovely to see you, Katherine.
Great to be on your show.
Did it go well, the do?
It went well. There are lots of discussions and some good speeches. And, we were sad you couldn't make it, but you're...
All right, I'm sure the Prime Minister missed me. I have to ask, talking to people and talking to your predecessor last year, there was a mantra, strive to survive or try to survive till 2025. And I guess an expectation in business and generally in the country, it was going to be particularly a long, cold, hard winter last year. But if you got through it, hope was just around the corner. The good times were going to roll. Mm. And like the actual weather itself, I think everyone has watched our economy and business activity as we've come into the new year. And it's not quite as bright as we'd all hoped, is it?
It's still tough. It is still incredibly tough. And in all the visits I do with business, particularly the small to medium-sized ones, we've got so many business people lying awake at night, not sure how to pay their wages bills. And they've just seen costs increase, whether that be ACC or the rates from the council, and it just keeps adding up. So we were hoping for better economic results, but it looks like it's going to take a lot longer. There are changes the government's currently making that I think will make a difference, but it is tough out there, and there's no way we can sugarcoat that. But we just need to keep going and focusing on what we need to do to keep the economy going.
It's funny too, because I think organisations like yours, and I know many of your members, look for solutions, right?
Yes.
Our media, and I think often the public, we've been programmed to look for someone to blame, look for someone to take responsibility, which doesn't solve the problems. Is there someone to blame for where we're at and the fact that we're not out, and does it matter if we can find someone to blame?
Look, I think naturally the general public looked for someone to blame, but the reality, I think, with the current economy is that we've been poorly performing for decades now, and there have been some things that we just have never addressed in terms of things, whether they be superannuation costs or our structural deficits, the way we're spending. Government spending was out of control for some time. But the job of an industry association is never to be a great prophet of doom. It is our job to go out there and find solutions and ideas about things that can make a difference.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we have embraced the anti-red tape revolution. Yeah. Business New Zealand has been working methodically, sector by sector, to ask all of our industry groups, what's the one thing that could change in your part of the economy that would make a difference? Yeah. And we're starting to feed that through to the Ministry for Regulation. And that's why also we've been welcoming some of the changes that the government has made. I do think the changes to investor visas will make a difference.
How much? How many millions do you think that will bring in?
Well, certainly it'll be better than the $70 million that's only come in since 2022, since the last changes. A lot of these changes, Sean, there's no one solution. It's got to be a suite of changes.
So you're looking for a cumulative to move the ball up the field an inch at a time?
It's going to be a range of things. I know the Prime Minister often talks about big rocks, and we all want those policy ideas that are game changers, but also it's just getting rid of some of the aggregated annoying pebbles that make it tough to do here. To go to your point about New Zealand being closed for business, look, for a lot of conversations I've had with business in the last few years in my previous role at the Food and Grocery Council as well, particularly for some of the multinational investors, we did a number of things that just sent the signal offshore that we were making it too tough to come here. And it was a range of stuff from making it tough to list new products, whether that be through MedSafe or the EPA. There were a lot of things we've done, particularly in the last 5 years, which have made it a lot harder to do business, not easier.
In general terms, we could say a lot of that was done for ideological reasons or philosophical reasons. We lacked a pragmatism in policy setting.
Well, I think particularly when we shut down over COVID, we a lot of our decision makers became very internally focused, and we started to make iterative decisions that just kept adding to business cost. And I think the Prime Minister's right when many of our officials, particularly in government departments, got into the habit of saying no, or this is just the process, when in fact, one of the things President Trump has done, I think, is he's unleashed around the world what's being described by the economists as the anti-red tape revolution. But I think he's challenging his local officials, and it's an opportunity for us all to test whether some of the things we're asking business to do here in New Zealand are right. And business has been asked for a long time to jump through a lot of hoops that are not productive. We've got to get rid of some of those challenges.
I'd be more blunt about what Trump's done. He's declared war on woke, and he said the gravy train hasn't just stopped. I'm ripping up the tracks so that it can't fire up again when governments change. I want to talk about, and you talked about moving the pebbles, and I see your rationale there. There is one giant boulder that Trump has certainly smashed with a sledgehammer. Yet our government doesn't seem to be prepared to, the Paris Accord. The Paris Accord, which the government won't even admit what advice it has on how much that will cost our economy. But estimates with the new 2035 targets are $25 to $35 billion in cost. And we have an admission. I got an admission from the Minister of Finance yesterday. Nothing New Zealand does will make a jot of difference to the temperature of the world, even if that is a thing that man can. So why we stick, and our major trade, and we couldn't do trade. China's out of it. Russia's out of it. Indonesia's out of it. Switzerland just pulled out of it. America is out of it. The Paris Accord is on its way out, and you would be a fool not to see that. Why can't we take that burden, that millstone off the neck of New Zealand business?
Well, I would say this, you're absolutely right. Nothing New Zealand does will make a skerrick of difference. However, we are signed with various trade deals. For the EU, it is a big deal. And so this is not
but there are no. I've asked the government, what are the sanctions if we don't meet our targets and we walk away? They can't tell me. There aren't any.
When I talk to New Zealand exporters who are always mindful of New Zealand's reputation when it comes to our dairy, our horticulture, etc., they will say we are in a bit of a catch-22. It's one of those things that New Zealand can't be seen to pull out of right now. It's not my specific area of expertise, Sean, but I just know that there are some political realities.
Service the agricultural and food production.
Yes, and for them, currently New Zealand can't be seen to be a leader on this stuff. So I'll leave that issue to those who are...
Just getting back to what you said, if you want to send a signal to investors and money around the world that this is a pragmatic place to do business and we're interested in doing business, surely that would send that sort of signal in spades.